Hi guys, you've had more than enough of me going shopping, me making brunch. So whilst we're still stranded in Harnessand, I thought today, just to keep the run of videos going, follow through on the deal we made, I thought instead we could do a Golf Badgers podcast. So most of you who watch these videos, I think, will know that James Bledge, course manager at Hoylake, and I, obviously my day job is a golf course architect. Most of you know that we do a podcast together on our respective subject matter. It was good to catch up with Bledge. We talk about the tour, the highs and lows of the last few weeks, the experiences we've had, and a bit of other stuff as well. So hopefully it's a more interesting conversation than listening to me talk about bacon or whether dogs are allowed in Swedish supermarkets. By way of an update on our progress or lack thereof, on Monday Harris and I went along to the garage that's 2-3 minutes drive down the road. Magnus, our recovery guy, he offered to come and tow us there, but fortunately the van, even without power steering, was able to make it under its own power, but I wouldn't have trusted it going much further than the 3-minute drive. And they told us that, yep, it is most definitely the alternator that's gone, well and truly completely gone, and it took the serpentine belt with it. So they've had to go and source one. They are hopeful that it will arrive tomorrow, Wednesday. So we'll be going first thing in the morning, 7 a.m. we'll be there, hoping that it will be fixed. Hopefully we can get it fixed. Hopefully we can get back on the road. So tomorrow is D-Day. So there'll be a proper video tomorrow, one way or the other. It will either be a good one and we'll be back on the road, or it won't be. So hopefully this podcast episode will compensate for the lack of a proper daily vlog for today. And tomorrow we can all meet up again and see if they've been able to box it. So without further ado, hope you enjoy this episode of our Golf Badgers podcast.
Welcome back, Badgers, to a special travel edition with Judith Chalmers. Sam can't make it this week, so we've got Judith Chalmers from the Travel Show instead. And a very special edition of the Golf Badgers this week, as many of you that might follow Sam on Instagram or whatever other socials might have seen what he's been up to recently. And kind of just to give you a quick rundown on his past travels, Sam famously drove all the way around Great Britain, or England and Scotland and Wales anyway, playing every single links golf course, and that gave him an appetite to do his next adventure. So I actually fooled you a little bit. We don't have Judith Chalmers. We actually do have the number one Badger with us live from North Sweden. I'm guessing 7 hours north of Stockholm. Is that right, Sam?
Who's Judith Chalmers?
She was you're maybe too young, actually. I'm showing my age. Everyone will know who Judith Chalmers is.
I don't think they will. I've never heard of Judith Chalmers.
You can Google her.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to have disappointed you, Bledge. It is just I. But yes, I'm only about 4 hours north of Sweden. North of Stockholm, rather. Oops. Actually, Bledge, because we managed to make up just a little bit of extra ground when everything was failing around us. We kept going and got to Harnessand, which is our home now. I think this is where we're going to live probably forever, I think.
Yeah,
so
you
have to come and visit us.
Gladly.
Yeah. I can show you around. I can give you the full tour. I can show you the Maxi supermarkets. I can show you the marina. There's good Chinese takeaway that we went to before. called New
What was your,
Garden
what was it?
City.
What was it? Was it quite similar to British Chinese?
I don't know. I genuinely couldn't understand the menu. Like,
Right.
they didn't have the option to translate, so I was lost. So I actually enlisted the help of ChatGPT, and I took some screenshots and put them into ChatGPT and said, "This is what I'm after. Can you find it?" And it said, "Yeah, get an 89." So there we go. Top tip.
Is it
If
really?
you're
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's fantastic. I'll tell you another thing ChatGPT did. We've already gone off topic and we haven't even started. But I was looking for some, I can't remember what it was. I was looking for something that there was just where I was in the supermarket and there were 100 things on the shelves in front of me, all with, with Swedish on that I can't read. So I took a photo of that, put it into ChatGPT and said, "Can you find this?" And it said, "Yeah, it's the pink one on the bottom left." So unbelievable.
I still
But
can't get my head
is,
through it. I tried explaining it to my mother the other day, who just looked at me blankly.
well,
Yeah.
we don't need to understand. We just need to accept the imminent takeover by our robot overlords.
Mhm.
But yes, after that bit of preamble, I suppose to our listeners' benefit, I am in Sweden, as you say, and I am trapped because our van, the same van that took us on the trip round Great Britain that you mentioned there, has finally given up the ghost. However,
For the news.
we're somewhat optimistic that tomorrow it might be brought back from the dead and we can actually drive back home. So fingers crossed, we're booked in at the local garage for a new
The Swedes are
alternator.
they're great mechanics, Sam. Volvo, Husqvarna, our friends at
Yeah,
Husqvarna, they know their stuff, the Swedes.
Husqvarna is actually where I'm trying to get to tomorrow, Bledge. In an ideal world, it's about 7 hours to Husqvarna, which if we get it done by lunchtime, that's what I'm going to try and get to, which is
Do
about
you know
3 hours.
do you know who's in Husqvarna just now?
Who's in Husqvarna just now?
Craig.
Who
Craig
is?
from Husqvarna.
Craig Stober.
Yes.
There you go. I can go and see him.
You 100%
Um,
need to give him a shout because he would like someone. Uh, he would absolutely love that. That would be so funny. But I think
maybe you can
so,
give me a lift home. Maybe you can give me a lift back to Liverpool.
I know it's kind of looking that way. I've got every faith in the Swedish mechanics. They'll sort you out. They will. They will. So let's quickly, for those who haven't been watching your incredible. I mean, I'm your biggest fan when it comes to watching these films that you've been making. They're between like 15 and half an hour long, and me and the kids and Jen have been sitting down of an evening and watched them, and like we used to watch Love Island in the summer, like we used to watch the Euros, like we watched the
Similar cast,
Olympics.
similar physique that I'm sporting to Love Island
and the Olympics,
and
and
the Olympics.
yeah, and now this is our new thing, is watching this. So I guess you'll probably post for everyone that's not seen it the link in the show notes. But let's give us a quick rundown of what you've been doing the last 3 weeks.
So, before we talk about the trip itself, thanks for that plug, Bledge. Thanks for that plug. Appreciate it. It's we wanted to record it because when we finished our tour living in the van originally, 2020, and then it ran through to sort of 2022, we looked back with a load of photographs and a load of memories, but we didn't really have that much sort of any video stuff, and we kind of thought it would be nice just to remember what we hoped would be a bit of an adventure, this trip. And if you just take my take was if I just took a load of footage and just recorded a load of stuff, it would just sit on my phone or on memory cards or on a hard drive or whatever, and I'd never do anything with it. So it's been a mountain of work, but I thought, well, look, why didn't I try and be consistent and just edit together a little video of what we've been doing that day. And obviously, it's very different from creating a film when you know what the ending is going to be. Like you're just doing it in the here and now, really. So I think I've done 22 of them now, unless you say that like sort of 10 minutes, and a few of them are a bit longer often when things have gone wrong, and it's extended. But it's been really good fun to actually do it because, as I say, it gives us something to reflect on, and a few people have been able to enjoy vicariously our adventure and subsequent misadventure. But yeah, we set off whenever it was, 23 days ago, mid-August. Went down to Folkestone, your old neck of the woods, and got the Channel in our van over to Calais, and then drove basically through France, through Belgium, through the Netherlands, through Germany, and through Denmark, into Sweden, and up to Oslo, and have basically been touring around Norway, through the fjords, through some of the beautiful cities over on the west coast, and up to the Lofoten Isles, or the Lofoten Isles, as they tend to call them. And then got to the top of the Lofoten, well and truly in the Arctic Circle, so it was 68 degrees north, and started to wind our way back down into northern Sweden, and then started to encounter a few van issues. So I think we've done about 4,000 miles so far on this trip.
Jeez.
and then our alternator packed in, basically. So from
I mean, if you'd been further north up in the Arctic Circle and it packed in, Jerry at Lofoten would have to have given a lend of one of his cars, I would have thought.
Well, we might have had to live there, which wouldn't have been a bad thing. I absolutely loved it up there. It's so gorgeous.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, we are lucky, jokes aside, that it packed in when it did, because there was a bang, and my power steering just went on the E4 sort of about 8 p.m. on Friday, and we'd known for the whole day that it was on its way out, and we stopped, and some Swedish mechanics basically said, yeah, absolutely. I think the word he used was kaput. So that's not good. That's not a positive description for your alternator. And so it proved to be the case. It went, and the serpentine belt, fan belt, went with it. So that was it. That was the power steering gone. The battery's not in charge. It actually sounds a lot better, the engine, because it hasn't got the rickety fan belt going around. But obviously, we can't really drive it very far in case it overheats or whatever. So Harry found a car park. It's a marina that was only 8 minutes away from where we broke down, fortunately. So we managed to get it there, and that's where we've been parked up. It's now Tuesday evening, and we've been Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We spent 4 days as residents of Harnösand, this little town in northern Sweden.
It seems that Harriet's done an amazing job as co-pilot navigator. I would imagine that is she responsible for finding places to stay, to eat, and planning the route kind of thing, and et cetera, et cetera?
Exactly. I'm sort of chief driver, and she's chief navigator. Otherwise, we definitely would have got lost a long time ago. But
you're a very focused driver. You can drive for miles. I've known that about you. I think you're like a driving machine when it comes to stuff like this.
It's good for the ADHD. It's lots of things to focus on. Can sing Taylor Swift, as you know.
Yes, that's my next question. So, what's been on the stereo?
Well, audiobooks is the answer to that, really, because if you
from the Oast House.
Sadly, not the Oast House, although that has been a classic of many a van trip previously. Murder mysteries, Bledge, that's what we like. I don't know, so around this time of year, as voracious Audible sorts of consumers, there's normally some good stuff that comes out. We always like Richard Osman's books, but his next one's coming out I think it's like the 12th of September or something. So hopefully we'll be back. And having just missed it, that's a shame. Anthony Horowitz does some good murdery kind of books. The guy who used to write still does write the Alex Rider books. I don't know if you ever read those if you were a kid. That might have been before your time or after your time. And Robert Galbraith, who's the pen name of J.K. Rowling, he touchy subject when it comes to J.K. Rowling to say that, but he writes great the Cormoran Strike books. I don't know if you've ever they made them into a TV thing on BBC. Recommend it. Cuckoo's Calling, all kinds. Really good.
But you were a fanatic book listener, Badge. There you go. You think you know somewhere you could be singing just non-stop, getting yourself from what are you in Taylor Swift listener? Top what percent?
0.05%. Very proud of that. My
top 50% after this trip.
I know, drop down. But if you're driving like 7 hours a day, which is basically what we were doing, then you kind of, I don't know, I think you run out of music to listen to. If you've got a book,
you end up hating you need to find podcasts and
it's like 20. You can get a book and it's like 20 hours. So we've been listening to Joy Ellis. We never heard of Joy Ellis, but Richard Armitage narrates a couple of books that she's done, and it's always good when you find someone and there's a long list of books in the series, because otherwise you just spend 7 hours trying to find the next thing to listen to.
Maybe so that should be my new thing, though, because I've pretty much listened to every greenkeeping podcast, golf. I listen to Cookie Jar, golf. I keep up with their podcast.
Things haven't gotten so bad that we've had to dip into the Cookie Jar library.
Well, there was a good one, and we should actually advertise the latest one with Joe McDonnell. Was really good.
Oh, that one's great.
So I enjoyed that one. It was really fascinating, actually, and you've got an involvement in that, so we should probably plug that. Can I tell
you a bit about that project, Bledge? Actually,
let's go all over the bit.
I'd love to tell you this a bit about that project, because there's been 5 or 6 things that I've been working on for the past year that I haven't really been allowed to talk about for various reasons, and that's one of them. And I was so excited to be involved in that. So for listeners to this who aren't aware of what I'm talking about or what Bledge and I are talking about, really would point you in the direction of Joe McDonnell's most recent Cookie Jar Golf podcast, where he talks about it much more eloquently than I ever could. But effectively, mutual friend of the pod, friend of both pods, but a good friend of ours, James Day, who owns Urban Golf, which is simulators down in London. It's the 20th anniversary of Urban Golf this year. And he sort of came to myself and to Joe and said, how about if we design some golf courses specifically for a simulator? And it really it's such an interesting problem to try and tackle that Joe and I were very excited to do that. So I was able to design some holes, and Joe creates these amazing landscapes, 3D things. And then another really great friend of ours, incredibly talented bloke, guy called Will Eager, Eagar. Look for him on Instagram. He turns that into this sort of the most beautiful virtual world, really. And we're in the process of having those actually then uploaded and converted so they can be played on the simulator. So before long, Bledge, we'll be able to go and drink more White Russians at Urban Golf and hopefully play a 6-hole golf course that will be unlike anything else that you've ever seen or played before, and could be something of the future, to be quite bold about it.
I remember when we were sitting waiting and getting a tube in London there just at the start of the summer, and we were discussing how what kind of things you could do to mark the Urban Golf anniversary, and we discussed this, and we thought it would be quite cool to play through the streets of London, and then that kind of, Joe had talked about that as well, coming up as an idea, but then they quashed it for what sounds like a better load of ideas. I won't kind of take too much of Cookie Jar's chat when it comes to that, because everything can be revealed in that podcast. But yeah, Fjordland thing's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that working title, I had a hand in vetoing. Nordvanger. Nordvanger is our latest idea of a name for it, which basically is Old Norse, translates as Fields of the North, or North Meadow, or something like that. So hopefully it will be as an emotive and evocative thing, but it's basically a 6-hole golf course at the moment. Hopefully we can make it an 18, but it plays through these sorts of imagined landscapes that are set in the Norwegian fjords where I was driving through, really. So it's great to actually see those, having spent so much time on Google Earth exploring and trying to find inspiration out there in the wild, for just the most extraordinary types of golf holes that have, instead of 1 or 2 different ways you can play them, dozens of different routes and things you can take. So quite extraordinary.
Has there any graphics been released so anyone can see any pictures? Or
yeah, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes here as well. But I really would encourage people to go and have a look at that. I'll tell you a stat, Bledge, because just people will think, oh, simulated golf, what a load of nonsense. To give you an idea of the scale of simulated golf, do you know that more rounds will be played on the simulator next year than will be played in the real world? On every golf course, anywhere in the world, every round added together, it's such a growing element of the game. And you think of all of the places where you can't play golf in the winter because it's too cold. Think of all the places you can't play golf in the summer. The places, as you say, sissies, Singapore, Seoul, Shanghai, Hong Kong. You think of all the places around the world where you can't build a golf course or access a golf course, but golf is no less popular. And how can you do it? Simulators. And simulators are not a TrackMan or a GC Quad or something like that hooked up to a projector. Like, that's fine. But when you've tried the proper thing with the proper technology behind it, it's the difference between playing on a Muni and playing at Pebble Beach. It's the proper stuff, especially the stuff that James is doing at Urban Golf and they're doing in Asia and places. It's so many levels above it. It's really exciting.
Right, it's super. It's a really great list. I really enjoyed that, and hats off to you all for getting it off the ground. Hopefully, you maybe have the prototype in play for the Cookie Jar Christmas party at Urban Golf, which
fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. That would be, and certainly, if not all 6, and certainly 1 hole at least.
I need to go back to there anyway to try and find my wedding ring. So, just fingers crossed.
Answers on a postcard for why Bledge's wedding ring disappeared in the streets of London at the Cookie Jar Christmas party. A mystery, the likes of which would make a great 8-hour audiobook for us to listen to.
And 100% male company as well, which is the most upsetting part of it. So we digress. We're going back to the alternator belt thing. When I've got a little story about this, when I entered the first ever competition for Sawgrass, to go out and help at Sawgrass, the John Deere comp, you had to do a video, which I did, which I could probably post in the show notes as well. I don't know. I was young and I really, really wanted to get on it. I really, really wanted to. It's the first time I ever did it, and I got past the first part, and then I had to drive up to somewhere in South England. I can't remember. And as I was driving up, the same thing happened. The car just totally lost power, and the alternator belt had come off completely.
Oh no!
It wasn't battery and couldn't get it back on. So I was 2 hours late for my interview for to get into my knight in shining armour. Chris Bernard, the course manager at Littlestone, came and picked me up and took me to the interview. So we got there in time, and I managed to get in. But then I didn't end up going because the secretary at the time, I won't say any names, it wasn't James Lehrer because he's a legend, but his predecessor wouldn't let me go. So
Is
after
that the
all that,
predecessor of a balcony?
I put such an effort into the video, such an effort into the interview, and then went in delighted to tell him that I got the place. I think there was 5 of us going, first ever one, and then he went, "Nah, you can't go. We're going to be quite busy." And that time, and we had like a kind of fairly big comp, but nothing that the team couldn't handle. So, yeah, there we go. Never got a chance to go again.
Bledge, that's tragic.
It is tragic. It's funny.
Puts my suffering into perspective.
Well, things have turned out all right, and everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer. I might not be sitting here speaking to you if I did go. Could have ended up.
Needless to say, you had the last laugh.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So that was funny. But let's talk about. I really, really loved the last podcast with Jerry Melville up at the Fawn.
Yeah.
Jerry has my favourite accent of all the greenkeepers.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I love Southern Irish people the best. And it's funny, I seen Jerry years ago on Eric Anders Lang and Adventures in Golf. And I remember Eric saying Eric and Jerry couldn't be further apart.
They come from different worlds, that's fair to say, isn't it?
Like Jerry, lovely, humble, quiet, Irish, Southern Irish, grafter, and then Eric Anders Lang, big LA showbiz, married a pop star. And I remember Eric saying,
been through rehab.
He'd been through rehab, done the law. Jerry, tell me, how if an alien landed on Lafaden, how would you explain golf to him? And I remember Jerry going,
hang on, was that Eric's accent?
Yes, sorry.
That was Eric's accent. Okay, sorry.
It sounds Irish.
No, I just wanted to make sure. And then how did Jerry respond?
I'm pretty sure he was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. That's the way of a good story. Jerry would have answered.
Can I tell you, Bledge? Bledge? I knew that was one of your favourite stories because you told me that on numerous occasions. So I actually told Jerry that was your favourite story about of his, and he enjoyed that very much.
I've romanticised it a little bit. It probably didn't go quite like that, but in my head it did.
I also said that this might have been somewhat exaggerated, but he enjoyed the regaling of that story very much. So
it's terrific. Love to welcome him across here because I've a lot of admiration for him and the job that he's done up there, and you more so because you've actually seen it. So let's talk about Lafaden a little bit.
Well, absolutely. But there's another golf course I played on the way up, and I'd love to just briefly talk about that because this was meant to be an adventure. We were driving up to the Arctic Circle, but it was meant to be a golf trip, and it's kind of turned into. Harriet sums us up well before by describing it as the shittest golf trip of all time because I've effectively looks like I'm going to have played 27 holes in about 28 days, which, seeing as I was trying to make a video series about all of these golf courses and all the rest of it, it's not a great return on investment. I'll have made more videos about cooking brunch in my van and going shopping than I will have made about actually playing the golf courses that I set out to play. So the course I did play on the way up, however, was this most wonderful little 9-holer called Helsingborg. I think, was it called Helsingborg? I
Mm.
can't remember. I need to check. Did you watch that video?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it has the shared ferries.
Yeah.
Yes. Money in the honesty box. Yeah, I watched
Yeah, it
all
is
the videos.
Helsingborg. I was doubting myself there. It feels like feels like several lifetimes ago. Helsingborg. It was absolutely cracking Bledge. 100 years old this year, 1924. So made a little video on there. I definitely encourage people to go and have a look at that one. But isn't it lovely that honesty box golf isn't a quirk that is unique to the British Isles? They have it here in Sweden as well, which is where that was, and that was I think the poshest place I've ever been. It looked like we were on the film set of Succession. Everyone was wearing sort of beige on beige, and everyone looked like they were a billionaire. And there was this lovely vintage 911 with Monaco registration plates and yachts, and is clearly where the Swedish super rich go on their summer holidays.
Well, they're building the Crownwood there, aren't they? Stevie Richardson, who was at Queenwood. I'm pretty sure that's Helsingborg, is it not? Yeah, it is. It is. It's up there.
Is that where it is?
Yes,
I
100%.
hadn't realised at all that's where it was. Oh, well, there you go. So that ties in, because it seems like no expense is being spared on that project. So I guess that does add a bit of credibility to my assessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it looked, and you looked like you played quite well around there as well.
Oh, it was better than my Lofoten attempt. But that is, Lofoten was really, let's be honest, the motivation for driving all of the way up through Norway, up through the fjords. Although with the James Day angle, I think you can probably see why I wanted to go to the fjords and sort of get inspiration for our Norvanger course. But yeah, getting up to the Lofoten and seeing that place, because that's top 100 in the world now on some ranking lists. It really has had a meteoric rise, and sort of has mega acclaim, really. So as a guy who sort of prides himself on links golf credentials and being relatively well versed in them, I thought that going and seeing the most northerly links course in the world is probably something that I'd better do. So that was it, really. And I'll tell you what, Jerry does put what an extraordinary amount of work that's just involved in getting a golf course there at all, maintaining it, managing it, getting it in such good condition, because it was, all things considered, in really impressive condition, considering you're in the Arctic Circle and you have 3 months of the year where the sun doesn't come up. Anytime you come up with some excuses at Hoylake Bledge, I'm not going to listen to them anymore.
No.
So it was brilliant. It was worth the drive and the adventure and the subsequent ordeal. But Jerry was a magnificent guest. I'm so glad that I was able to sit down and interview him for this podcast.
And I think one thing that I've kind of taken inspiration from in this trip is how calm you've managed to keep yourself during moments of potential crisis. And I actually had one of myself on Sunday when I was driving to Old Trafford to watch Man United Liverpool.
That was particularly sad.
I was thinking about it when I left in the morning. I was thinking about, God, because I just watched the last episode with my mother and showed her how to cast it onto the telly, and now she'll be watching it. And I was like, God, he's just like, he seems so chilled out. The fact that like the car's ready, the van is ready to break down in the middle of a Swedish forest, and I was driving the road thinking, I'll bet this ends up happening to me today, and then
you wished it on yourself.
I could just feel it struggling. The engine management light comes on, and then it's choked down to 30 mile an hour. Managed to hobble into a service station, pop the bonnet. I've got a crack in the turbo. So went and got some gaffer tape, gaffer taped it up. But it needs all plugged into the computer to get off limp mode. So I managed to limp it all. I could have taken the risk, but in my old age, could have taken the risk and driven into Old Trafford on limp. But with my golf clubs in the back and worrying about trying to get out afterwards, I was just like, look, you're on a roll, just try and get it home.
You would have been perfectly safe, but all the United fans left at half time, didn't they?
I know. Well, some performance. But it was nice. Every cloud, I got to come home and watch it with Fletch, and he was bouncing off the walls being a Liverpool fan. So it was great. It was great. But yeah, aye, dead truck.
Well,
but I'm hoping you have more luck with yours.
Well, hopefully. But it's funny. It was a bit of a dicey moment, really, because where we were, it was about 4 p.m. and we were, I can't remember the name of the place. It was like this minuscule place. But the van was really starting to put up some protest in terms of the noises coming from the bonnet, and the battery symbol on the dashboard started flashing and beeping, which is slightly disconcerting if it's ever happened to anyone. It's not really what you want to happen on your dashboard. But there it was flashing away, and we were just driving through this tiny town, but at least there was a petrol station and there was a garage. So we thought, great, let's go in there, have a look, see if they can, get some gaffer tape as you tried to do and sort us out. And he got his stethoscope out. He was a terrific bloke, that guy.
Yes, I've seen that.
Big, burly bloke. He looked like a biker, and he had sort of this goatee thing and a shaved head. He was so nice. I sort of stuck my head into the into the building and said, "Hello, do you speak English? Is there any chance you could help me?" And he said, "Oh, yes, no problem." And he came out and he had a look, and he called his mate over, and he had a look, and he said, "Yeah, your alternator is kaput." And he had these stethoscopes, and he sort of had put the other end of it onto the alternator, I guess, and he gave it to me, and he said, "Have a listen to that," and you just hear this horrible grinding, whirring noise. And I'd sort of hoped, naively, not that you really hope anything to be wrong, but seeing as something was wrong, I'd hoped it was the belt itself making the noise, and but it was the alternator. He was most certainly proven to be correct. But he basically said, "I can't fix this until Wednesday." And this was Friday. Everywhere in Sweden and Norway, as we found out when we got a flat tire, everywhere in Scandinavia closes over the weekend. There's no garage open on the Saturday, nowhere. So we were sort of, I think at that point we were 7 hours from Stockholm. And if we went via Östersund, which was the next town, it would be a 9-hour drive. And if we drove to Östersund, that was 4 hours away, let's say. Well, there's no chance, or there was a chance that we wouldn't make it. If we got there, then guaranteed nothing would be open when we did get there. So we basically had to gamble, really, and take the shorter route, because if we went through the forest and it could survive for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, then we'd be able to get to the coast, the east coast of Sweden, on the sort of the Baltic Sea. And if we could do that, then there would be a succession of harbours. And effectively, if you've got a camper van, you can pay about 250 Swedish krona, which is about £19, and plug in. It doesn't matter what time you arrive, you just do it on an app. But effectively, we would be assured that if it packed in, we would have somewhere to stop. And as luck would have it, it did hold until we got, as I say, we were 8 minutes away from this place. So it was the right decision, because if it had gone any earlier, then we really would have been in trouble. As it turns out, he was right. Wednesday was the earliest as anyone could get it fixed, because someone had a look at it on Monday and said, "Yeah, needs a new alternator." It will take 2 days to get it, and we'll book you in for Wednesday. So we couldn't have got it done any earlier, but at least in this version of events, we were able to actually park up somewhere and have, civilization around us. Otherwise, we might have been in the middle of a Swedish forest with no electricity, no chance of reprieve, and then we really would be struggling.
Is it quite a nice town you're in, is it?
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know how many people live here, but enough. It's got everything that we need, really. So I think that we've probably exhausted all of the touristy things that you can do in the 4 days we spent here. But look, as a place to have been stranded, as I say, it could have been a lot worse.
And I never give you time to edit in your videos. I mean, how long does it take you to edit a video, for example?
Oh, bloody ages. It's an absolute nightmare, mate. When you've been driving for 8 hours and, you've been whatever, let's say we went around Stavanger or Bergen, or basically in that part, we would have gone round. Well, in the morning I would have edited the video from the day before, and then that could take 3 hours. And then we'd go and explore the next place. So let's say we'd done the video for Stavanger in the morning. Then we would have explored Bergen that sort of afternoon. And then we would have driven 6 hours from sort of 5 o'clock, got somewhere at 11 p.m. maybe. And then gone to bed, and next morning done the same thing. So yeah, it is a real additional pain in the neck to have done those videos, but I'm really glad we've done them.
This is what I'm trying to get across to anyone that's potentially an interest in watching them. They are really high quality. I think I had text you saying, what do you edit these on? Because just the way that, like, you speak over the top of bits where you're filming someone else, and it's very well done. It's something I'd like to kind of do myself. So you're gonna have to give me a tutorial when you get back.
You're very kind. Look, they're no Tom Mills works of art, but as I say, it's nice to have been able to catalogue and document the travels and the travails of the journey, and hopefully they'll have a happy ending. Because I've got a Hittites match on Sunday at Hoylake, so I'm slightly up against it.
So how is this? Where you were obviously going to drive up to Nordkapp after the Foten, which is the very, very top of Norway.
And I'm bloody glad we didn't, because otherwise we really would have been
very lucky. Then. But had you done that, where would you have expected to be just now? Are you still on track?
Yes and no. So it's cost me golf effectively, because those are the places I wanted to play. We were doing on the way back down. We wanted to get up to the north, and then really we would have gone to Nordkapp had we not lost the tyre, because that was our other, our previous mechanical malfunction when we got a flat tyre in Norway before the Foten, and I had to replace a tyre, which is something I haven't done since I was probably about 17, and then I was doing it on a little Ford Fiesta rather than a 3.5 ton van. So that was a challenge, but managed to get the tyre. I'm glad.
I thought that you being you would have had all the nuts and bolts off them released and put back on before setting off, just to make sure they did. Instead of that would have been off.
That's something that the head of logistics should have thought about. Really, I have. I have had a word with Harriet. Yeah, I've had a word with head of logistics. I've got enough things to think about with the driving Bledge, but fortunately, we did get. But I literally snapped the what's it called? The wrench. The what would you call it? I was taken to calling it a tire iron, which is what an American would call it, because
I like the tire iron chat, to be honest, and I like the selection of tire irons in the Swedish Halfords. It's enjoyable.
Oh, that place was amazing. Bill Tecker
Norwegian.
Biltema. But went there after I'd broken that one. So it turns out that my weight on that tire iron is enough to literally shear the stainless steel at the neck. So that was a real low point. That was the previous low point of the trip. But we got the tire on, made us up. But then we were a couple of days behind schedule, and it was just so cloudy and so rainy, and we really wanted to see the Northern Lights. And we were sort of looking at the KP index, which is how much geomagnetic activity there is going on, and it was diminishing over the following week. And it was just everywhere to the north of us was basically just clouds. And it's, even though we were as far up as we were, 68 degrees north, right at the top of the Foden, and having been in the Arctic Circle for, I don't know, hundreds of miles at that point, it was still a 16-hour drive from there to Nordkapp. So to put that into perspective, it's like saying that we got as close to John O'Groats as Cardiff. So it's massive. So we would have had sort of, I don't know, 4 days of solid driving there and then back just to get to where we were, and having not been able to see anything at all. And ultimately, it's nice to do these things, but also you've got to have some degree of reality. So that's why we decided to come further south. So the things that I've missed by having not, by the van having had this much longer episode with 4 days in situ, 5 days as it will be, because we've got to get it fixed tomorrow. I wanted to go and play at Falsterbo again, a place that I played when I was a teenager, but haven't been back to since. So Falsterbo, Farno, I've definitely pronounced that wrong, but that's in Denmark. Really wanted to go there. And then there are 3 courses in Germany: Budesand, Silt, Norderney, and Nordsee. Those courses. So there are 5 golf courses that I planned on playing, but realistically, I'm very, very unlikely to be able to play now on this trip. But, I'll go and see them again one day, and it'll be worth it when I do, I'm sure.
So you're just going to, when you get this fixed tomorrow, you're just driving straight back?
Pretty much. It's a long way. It's, if we could do 8 hours tomorrow, let's say we get it fixed. Big if, but if we do, we could do 8 hours. Then I could do 8 hours on Thursday, and then I could do 8 hours on Friday, and that would get us to Calais.
Right.
And then get the channel, I don't know, late on Friday or on Saturday. Try and make it home. And then I've got 6 hours on Sunday, so.
Wow.
So
I'll maybe be around on Sunday to welcome you home then.
Or not, as it may be. We might still be, just because they're changing the alternator, I guess they won't really know if it's caused any more damage when it broke. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Well, I guess you'll be putting your updates on Instagram, will you, for people to...
Yeah, I think so. But I'll definitely do it. I'll put this podcast on tomorrow, I think, as our sort of day 23 thing. So if you're listening to this as a proper podcast, or whether you're looking at this on YouTube, watching it on YouTube, then
you'll see me fly all the way through this.
I think I have pushed people's willingness to watch me go shopping and make brunch as far as it can be pushed, and I'm amazed that anyone at all has been watching the sort of Stranded in Sweden mini-series element to the playlist. But hopefully we can be back on the road. And you know what, Bledge? I've really enjoyed it, actually. It's out of my comfort zone, but so was doing this podcast. I don't know what it was like for you when we started, but it's uncomfortable to go and do something like that and sort of put yourself out there. But people are nice, and people send nice messages, and I've had loads of them. So I know that there's loads of people who have been watching, or you know what, will watch in the fullness of time, because look at the stats thing, look who's watching, it's not just the most recent video that's being watched, it's every single video in the series is being watched, and they're all kind of slowly ticking up. So, some poor people out there are binge watching. They've run out of things to watch on Netflix, and they're binge watching this ill-fated adventure that we've taken to the Arctic Circle.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it will be ill-fated. We're all rooting for you to come back, and I think hats off to Harriet as well for going through with this. She's done it once, now twice. So what's the hat trick going to be? What's going to be the next big one after this? Well, you must have been talking about this.
Oh, I don't know, Bledge. This could be it now. It was part of the idea, really, is sort of a bit of a last hurrah in the van. And
Do you think are you going to retire the van? Are you?
The van might retire. It will. Once this is done, we'll give it a proper overhaul when we get back, and who knows? Maybe we'll go to Ireland or something. But I feel this is a fitting send off, almost a Viking burial for the van, going into a harbour somewhere. But hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully it will be purring on the E4 tomorrow afternoon. Because apart from the catastrophic failure that's kept us stranded here for 4 days, apart from that, it's absolutely brilliant. It just goes and until that point, this is the first real setback we've ever had with it. So hopefully we can.
You've got big golf badgers on the side of the van. Has anyone asked you about that at all?
We've had some double takes from locals. Although mainly, I think it's because Harriet obviously sits on the on the left-hand side, and often has one of our dogs, either Watson or Winnie, sat on her knee.
Driving the car.
So I think for all of the left-hand drive Swedes and Norwegians, it's probably that which has caused them a bit of confusion rather than the golf badgers, which are probably taking their strides. They probably listen, Bledge, I'm sure.
So before we go, I'm going to teach you a saying.
Okay.
It's one of my favourite Swedish sayings that my friend Lars Knutsen taught us, and it's "Tjena mitt bjena." Do you want to say that after me?
Mitt bjena.
Tjena mitt bjena.
Tjena mitt bjena.
Hello to the man with the middle parting. It's crazy. You say that to a Swedish person.
When do you imagine that's going to come out tomorrow?
Unbelievable. Well, it's a national saying. They all, every person I've said it to, this is the funny thing, every Swedish person I've ever said it to pees himself laughing. I swear to God. I'm going to text you, right? Or in fact, even better, I'm going to get Lars to send me a voice note of the exact pronunciation.
So when I go tomorrow to the guy holding an alternator and a serpentine belt,
Tjena mitt bjena. Yeah. Not like Borat, though.
That will be guaranteed end of the road in Harnesand. Never again. My slim chance of making this tea time on the Sunday morning will have gone
from Viking body along with your van.
0.1 to 0.
Yeah.
Get a Viking burial for myself.
Well, but we look forward to watching the rest of them, and hopefully we can get this podcast released soon as. So then, so we know you've got a lot of other stuff to do.
Jeopardy, real time, Bledge. This is
they can follow along.
It's a bit like life. We don't know if there's a happy ending to this or not. I'm not recording this safe from Hoylake, and we're not in the same room. I am quite literally buggered right now, so I don't know whether you can see it. It's probably just a reflection, but there's the harbour behind me in Harnesand. So
you should be out there catching your supper.
Yeah, there's the Mackies is closer to the van than the edge of the water. So, but I'll tell you what, if we'd been in those forests any further north, then we might have had to hunt a reindeer or find
Eat the dogs.
No, the dogs would have taken down the reindeer. It would have been fine. We would have eaten for weeks. It would have been probably a far more interesting video than going shopping at the local Maxi supermarket. But there we go.
Oh, we all like that. But so yeah, I guess the next time, well, hopefully the next time we speak about another podcast with maybe a special guest or whatever, we'll get to discuss that when we get back. But as if we'll promise more and more, and when time allows, we shall deliver.
One day, Bledge will get it right.
Yes.
But I've got to get my alternator sorted first, so hopefully they'll cut me some slack.
All the best of luck. All the best of luck. And we'll see all you Badgers on the other side.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon. See you on Sunday, Bledge.
Tjena med bjädda.
Tjena med bjädda.